What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another FPL video. My name is Mo, and today in this video I'll be going through a combination of players that I have selected who I believe are the hidden gems for the FPL game this season. Now, there's a lot of reasons why that could be. Is firstly, low ownership. We're overlooking them due to the template picks. So we'll go through all the positives and negatives of why people are not picking these players, or what would be the beneficial reasons of actually selecting these players for your squads to get, let's say, a comparative advantage for a good rank to start the FPL game. But if you're new around here and you haven't subscribed to FPL INKLING, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button too if you like the content that you see. So what does hidden gems actually mean? So hidden gems is kind of a term used in the FPL community for players that to begin the game people don't really look into as much. They're away from the template picks. They haven't done well in previous seasons comparative to other seasons they've done well in, can reward highly, have had changes in prices, i.e. Son went from around 12 mil last year back down to 9 million this year. So the biggest fall in price for a player this FPL season. So let's go through that list, guys. I'm going to give you my version of why I've selected these players, why they're on my watch list, and why I believe that there's a good case to have these guys in, maybe in game week 1, maybe not even in game week 1, but from game week 3, 5 onwards due to fixture swings. So let's get into the first player, which is Son. Last season, we say it's a disappointing campaign, but that's probably due to the fact that the price that he came in, it wasn't ideal that he was priced around 12 mil plus, and one of the most expensive players, only returning 152 points, was fairly disappointing. However, he got 16 returns, pretty much plays almost every minute for Spurs unless he's injured or there's some rotation at the end of the season. But overall, at 9 million this season, I think it's a fairly fair price for a player of his ability. Now, I know there's speculation around Harry Kane. Will he stay? Will he go? But we all know how much they link well together. Now, even if Spurs were to lose Harry Kane, I still believe that Son has a lot to offer. Could be on penalties, could get a good run in the team in terms of like having opportunities of scoring the goals, might be playing a bit more up front. Richarlison's in there as well, but Son overall has been a safe bet for at least 2 to 3 seasons prior to that, and his price point was a big point, allowing him to be in squads. And the price points at 9 mil, 8.5 mil, he can be easily gotten to if there are players to move across. I think getting to the 12 mil mark, you're looking at players like Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Rashford was at 6.5 last season, but a 9 this season. So we've had players who are at higher prices, so it's really hard to get to Son last season. But I believe there's a lot of potential returns from him. And if we look at Spurs fixtures to begin with, they might not look the most generous in the first 2 weeks, obviously Brentford away and Manchester United at home. But then Bournemouth away, Burnley away, Sheffield United at home is a good stretch of fixtures with Arsenal and Liverpool, followed by Luton and Fulham. So a good combination, barring 3 out of the first 9 games. I think Spurs have a really good run. And Son is someone who can deliver bonus points, good link-up play, goals and assists can come from him, and he pretty much plays 90 minutes if he does start the game. And if the game's already secured and won, there is a risk that he might get subbed off, but he plays plenty of minutes for Spurs in itself. So that's why I've chosen Son. He's only selected by 5.6% of managers at the moment, so a great differential. What players can we, link him to in terms of price points? There's Marcus Rashford at 9. Bukayo Saka at 8.5. But if you're not going for a premium in the midfield like Mo Salah, getting someone like Son in is much more kind of like achievable. So I think that'll be a good chance for you to maybe go against the template. And Son is a safe bet as well. So if you see some good form from him in pre-season, and you feel that there's a good chance that he'll get a good chance of scoring high points, then a good differential could be Son in your maybe 3, 4 or 5 midfield that you stack up in your first squad. Now, moving on to the second player, Diogo Jota from Liverpool. So ownership of only 2.1%. He's coming in at a price point of 8 mil. So you're going to be comparing him to players like Martinelli, Bruno Fernandes is at 8.5. And then you got players who are slightly cheaper. Players, for example, like Foden, Grealish at 7.5, Maddison. So there is a lot of price points here that you can consider. That do you want to pay the extra 0.5 for someone like Jota? You're not really sure if he's going to get the game time. There is a risk of rotation because, you've got players like Diaz. They signed a new midfielder as well. And there's a lot of speculation around how frequently he'll get minutes at the early part of the season. But when he's on song and he's not injured, you can see from 2021, 2022 where he got more minutes. 175 points with 22 returns. Last season he got 11 returns, but that was coming back after an injury. And he did have great, patches near the end of the season from game week 30 onwards when Liverpool hit some real form. Fixtures-wise, Liverpool Not too bad. Chelsea always a tough game, first game of course, and Newcastle game week 3. But then you've got Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Wolves, West Ham, Brighton, Everton and Spurs in the first 9. So a good combination of fixtures. From pre-season, if we get an idea of Diego Jota getting regular minutes, obviously you got the forward play of Liverpool and there could be rotation, but if you get like a bit of understanding of Klopp of what he's looking to achieve, Jota might be a great differential for you. Are you willing to take that risk? Invest that 8 mil? Players could be, brought for 8 mil. Let's say Gabriel Jesus could be invested in, who is pretty much more nailed on. But again, it's about risk versus reward. 2.1% ownership. If he does get a good start, a great chance for you to get, a good rank and a good lead over your fellow counterparts who you're playing in your leagues and mini leagues. Now, moving on to Manchester City. So the most goal scoring, or the highest goal scoring team in the league itself. I'm really surprised to say this, but there's always that risk of rotation at the start of the campaign. I know there's always managers saying it's the start of the season, they're probably going to be nailed on to start week in, week out. But with Pep, the Pep roulette is something that everyone gets hurt by. So if the dynamics of your team allow you to get Man City kind of midfielders along with Haaland, then great. There's obviously Grealish, we've got Gundogan's gone, Mahrez, is he going to get minutes or not? It's still in the air about Bernardo Silva, so Phil Foden seems like a safer bet. Now, it depends on what style Man City play. If they play the cutback like they did last season, Phil Foden's in for a brace of points because cutbacks to Haaland or any other forward player that you can find from Man City, Phil Foden tends to be, in and around, even if he plays central or out wide. He's someone who's pretty much, guaranteed to get you points if he does start. The only concern is if he starts and when will he start, because then he'll have these phases where about 5 to 6 games he'll just be, not selected and he won't even come on for those 90 minutes. So it's really, I'd say it's a choice that you need to make, that you need to have cover on the bench for someone like Phil Foden, but we know that underlying stats that when he does get going, that he is pretty phenomenal. 142 points last season, the highest he's ever returned, 1,800 minutes with 18 returns last season. Now, fixtures-wise, everyone knows how amazing Manchester City have their fixtures, barring Newcastle in game week 2, the first 7 game weeks seem fairly kind of like, a smooth run for them. If he gets started in the Burnley game, I'm pretty certain he'll play most of those 7 games. Again, it's just never certain with Manchester City. He's still only owned by 11.3% of managers, which is quite surprising because he's gone down in price from last season from 8 mil to 7.5. So it's just about, can we get him at the right time? Because there was a phase last season that he did go on a really good run. He got a hat-trick against Manchester United as well. It's just about making sure we capture him at the right point before he hits his kind of like peak. So again, he's a safe bet, but always good to have someone on the bench just in case he gets rotated or he does not start at the start of the campaign. The next team we're going to be talking about is Chelsea and Raheem Sterling. So again, he's gone down in price from last season to 7 mil. Now let's forget about last season for one moment. Prior to that, 163 points, 154, 204, 234, 229. I appreciate he's played for a club like Manchester City, but I don't think we should just go by just the one season stats of last season. He does have the ability to do well. He went to a new club. The club as a whole was in disarray, so it's not just fair to pinpoint it upon him. He's still got 10 returns last season, played 1,800 minutes, but I think under Pochettino, he'll get a new life, maybe a resurgence, so more minutes, better style of play. And I think if Chelsea are going to succeed as a team, it's pretty much going to come through Raheem Sterling. Owned by only 4% of managers. It can go up, I believe, if he starts well. I know Liverpool and West Ham at home and away are not the most easiest of fixtures in game week 1 and 2. But then have a look at Chelsea's fixtures from game week 3 to 8. Luton, Forest, Bournemouth. Sorry, Nottingham Forest. Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Fulham, and then Burnley. So a nice stretch of fixtures. If he gets going, and I think, if managers are keeping an eye on him, a 7 million price point is not difficult to get to. So even if you have someone like a Mason Mount, for example, or Mbemba at 6.5 and you leave £500,000 spare in your bank, an easy kind of like change, you got the funds available, it can be just a straight swap. And it might even free up £500,000 if you've got a 7.5 mil player. But Raheem Sterling, personally, for me, is someone I'm really going to keep a close eye on. And with Chelsea's fixtures, I would like to see, if I see something which is positive and I think they're doing well, Raheem Sterling is someone that I can jump onto to get into my midfield as soon as I potentially can. Going back to Liverpool, we're not going to go through the fixtures again because we've kind of already gone through how a good balance of fixtures they do have to start the season. But I believe the whole talk about Trent has kind of made managers forget how good Andrew Robertson is, or Andy Robertson is as well. Owned by only 3.9% of managers. Last season he got 121 points, but then again, I think Trent only got around 150, so 30 points more for $1.5 million. Is there kind of a case of an argument that maybe we're overlooking Robertson? So I know he's going to potentially could get like a forward role, playing a bit more in the midfield, but we shouldn't forget how good Robertson is in his wing-back role. Set pieces, always likes to get forward, is likely to get involved. He only got 8 returns last year. As a defender, that's quite a good return. And he does tend to play, week in, week out, and there is a rest here and there in terms of appearances. He's still got 29 appearances, and for a 6.5 mil defender, you're kind of comparing him to Trippier. Van Dijk comes in about 6 mil, and there are other defenders around that price mark as well. But I think at the low ownership, if you do want to get someone from the Liverpool defence and you don't have the budget for Trent, I don't think it's the end of the world for you to not consider Robertson. Good fixtures, an attacking player, we know what he can deliver. And I think there's always, parts of the season where he goes on a good run. And if you look at it, previous campaigns, he's hit 186, 161, 181, and 213 points in one campaign. So he does have it in him, guys. Are we overlooking him? Yes. And I think that there will be a part in the season where maybe Trent might not fire. Robertson might be doing better. A straight swap to free up some funds for the squads, and people will invest that in their midfield or the forward line. But that's just a perception for me. Always consider a player that previously has performed. They might not have had the best last campaign, but they've proven it on a different occasion for you. So Robertson, for me, again, with the fixtures coming in, if you need someone in your defence and you want to invest 6.5 mil rather than the 8 mil for Trent, he's a good alternative for us to consider. Another Chelsea player is Ben Chilwell. So with Chilwell, the debate is Reece James or Ben Chilwell. They're both fantastic players. Now, with Reece James, we've got a high ceiling, so he could have one of those games where he can get anywhere between 15 to 20 points, but then he'll have about 4 or 5 games where he'll get 2 points, 1 point, 2 points. The concern with both of these players is they're injury prone, so are they going to be fit enough for the whole games? We've discussed how good Chelsea's fixtures are from game week 3 onwards. He had a good end to the season last season, guys. I know he only got 70 points, but 15 starts, but he was injured for most of the season. But he was playing more regularly than Reece James at the end of the last season. He's also on set pieces as well, so he does like to take a corner, a free kick as well. And we know how well he's delivered in the past as well. In comparison to Reece James' ownership, he's only owned by 4.6% of managers, which is understandable, but I still believe that there's a lot in Ben Chilwell to give you added value to your squad. 5.5 mil is a very generous price for him because he's been priced at 6 million previously in the game as well. But yes, injury prone. Will he play as many minutes? That's the only concern. But I think out of the two, it's not much of a kind of choice or a selection. There's not much difference. But I think you'll get more consistency from Ben Chilwell. He'll probably get like 6 to 8 to 10 points rather than not having that kind of huge swing between 18 points and 2 points here and there. But Ben Chilwell's a good pick as well. It's not a clear choice, but if you do want to go differential, he's a good shout to have in your squad as well. And last but not least, I wanted to keep a goalkeeper in these kind of hidden gems. And Flekken for Brentford. I know there's rumours at the moment that we are expecting Raya to leave. If you can get a goalkeeper for 4.5 mil from a club like Brentford, who have done really well defensively over the last couple of seasons, then I think we're in for a good shout of definitely getting him into our squads. Only owned by 3.7% of managers at the moment, but I believe people are still waiting on the fact that does Raya stay or go. If that is the case and he becomes number 1, I'm certain before game week 1 his ownership will go far higher. So people are at the moment kind of considering 4.5 mil. You got like Pickford at the moment, who people are bringing into their squad. Leno as well from Fulham. So there are other alternatives. But fixtures wise, Spurs at home is a tough game, but they're at home. So they're done reasonably well in that derby. They can play at home. Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Everton, Nottingham Forest. So again, in the first 7 game weeks, plenty of potential for good clean sheets. But I think it's a good option to have in your squad as well. So if you do want to not invest too much money in your kind of goalkeepers, you got a 4.5 in Flekken, and then you can get like Areola for 4 mil as well. So those are kind of like thought process that are going through in my mind. Yes, you can spend the extra £0.5 mil and get someone like Ramsdale in your squad, Martinez. There are other alternatives. Onana, if he joins Manchester United, I'm pretty certain will be around the 5 mil mark. So we do have options, but if you do want to save that extra £0.5 mil for a rainy day, this guy will be someone who everyone should consider, and he's kind of like a hidden gem at the moment if you haven't come across him already. So those are the hidden gems, guys, that I've gone through. Let me know if there's anyone I've missed who you're looking at the moment. I'd like to hear from you guys. So if you like the video, give us a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, guys, hit that subscribe button, join the FPL INKLING family, and hit that notification icon as well to get the notifications of when I release my content. Have a good day. Get your team set in, guys. If there's any questions, feel free to let me know. But till then, I'll see you soon with some more content. Have a good one and get your team submitted.